Good evening, Minister. Thank you very much for your time. South Africa, or Africa rather, we have 96,000 infections, around 3,000 deaths so far. We've not been as badly affected as other countries and other areas. Certainly, though, the economic impact has been dire. How do you see Africa emerging from this pandemic?
Good evening, Sally, and good evening to your viewers as well. Well, I think this has been a calamity for the African continent, given the strides that we had made over the past 2 decades in particular. Our economies had improved vastly. We'd seen the strengthening of democracy and good governance in many parts of the continent. So this is a real setback, and it has exposed our public health systems as being rather fragile. However, what has been encouraging is the coordinated manner in which we have responded, led by the African Union and particularly by the chairperson of the AU, President Ramaphosa. So I think Africa, out of this experience, has to ensure that all the inadequacies that have emerged as key barriers to fully combating this pandemic must be addressed, and we must ensure that should any further calamity strike, we would be in a far stronger position in terms of responsiveness.
Yes, there certainly has been praise for this united front that AU countries have been presenting around the issue of whether it's debt relief or a debt payment. And there's strength in that unity, as you say, spearheaded by the President and, of course, the AU chairperson, as he is currently. Do you see this as a change, an opportunity perhaps in the midst of this crisis for Africa to be more united than ever before? Or do you see a real sea change on this particular issue?
Well, I think one of the things that I have observed in the period of responding to COVID-19 is that there was a far greater readiness to work together, to share information, and indeed to bring to bear African resources to strengthen Africa's response. So I think we certainly saw a new character of unity and collaboration, and it's exactly the kind of approach we need if we are to succeed in implementing the free trade area agreement that most countries have attached their signature to.
South Africa is one of the more wealthy countries in Africa. What support are we giving to less well-resourced African countries during this pandemic?
We have been carrying out a review of needs on the continent and really looking at countries that are struggling in terms of medical equipment, personal protective equipment, and in particular test kits. And we've identified some funding in the purview of the African Renaissance Fund, which is a fund overseen by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. And I'm pleased that today I've received a letter of concurrence from my colleague, the Minister of Finance, that we can release some funds to support the 21 countries on the continent that are in the most desperate need of assistance.
Let's move now on to the thing that has been keeping you up at night, which of course is repatriating South Africans all over the world during this lockdown. My understanding is about 5,000 South Africans have been brought home, but that there are others across the world that's still waiting to come home. 200 South Africans still in Wuhan, am I correct? What is their status and when are they coming home?
I'm not aware of people in Wuhan. Really, everybody in Wuhan should have come back when we asked individuals who were in distress to come forward to register with our mission in Beijing. We actually had sent a team from the mission to Wuhan to assist, and we got all the persons who had registered with us back to South Africa. So I'm not sure why that number that you referred to remained behind, because we arranged everything to ensure that the number that had registered with the department and with the mission would be brought back home. So I would need to get more information from our mission as to the 200 you referred to.
Yes.
There are countries with which we're still struggling to get our citizens back because of very, very extensive and extreme restrictions, far more restricted than we have here. Difficulty in reaching capital cities where there are international airports. So we're still working with several governments to get assistance to get our citizens back into South Africa.
Can you confirm quickly how many South Africans are still overseas that you are aware of at this point?
Well, I'm aware of around 1,500 more. Initially, you'll remember we had a number of just over 3,000. We then had the number grow, and we've now been able to repatriate 5,000 plus. And I'm told the number that has contacted our center, our command center, numbers are around a remainder of 1,500 or so.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time this evening on this very special day for Africa. That's our International Relations Minister, Naledi Pandor.